We're seeing oil jump to the highest since we got the attacks on the Saudi facilities in September. How much more of a pronounced move could we see in oil? Is that something that's going to sort of drive your FX strategy, or would you?
Not really.
Yeah.
Not really. That's a good point. But in terms of oil, we generally see oil being range-bound around $60 a barrel.
Okay.
And the big reason is that, unless you have a significant pickup in global economic activity, it's unlikely you'll see a sustained upward cyclical trend in crude oil prices. Now, what's interesting and what's supportive of crude oil prices, aside from the fact that downside risks to global economic activity have lessened, is also the fact that we've had the OPEC Plus back in December extending the crude oil output production cuts, I believe, until Q1 of this year. Mm-hmm. So all this is supportive for crude oil prices, but it's not enough to lead to a sustained cyclical upswing in crude oil prices, and that's as long as the global growth outlooks remains relatively sluggish.
Yeah. In terms of sort of the hit to risk sentiment generally, as I was saying at the top of the show, we kind of started off 2020 with quite a bit of risk on, and it was helped to some extent by the RRR cut from China, even though that was kind of flagged at the end of last year. Do you see 2020 as being quite a risk-on year generally in markets?
I'm quite constructive on the global growth outlook, I must say, because monetary policy settings are loose. Fiscal policy settings are also going to remain loose in 2020. We've got leading indicators that have bottomed out, especially on the manufacturing front. It looks as though the contraction in manufacturing activity has bottomed out. And so I look at all this, and it's for me, it's a relatively constructive outlook going into 2020. And clearly, you add to the fact that the risk of or the U.S. and China are on the way towards an initial trade deal. The risk of a hard Brexit has significantly diminished. So 2020 looks relatively good and constructive in my view.